Not bad. Alrighty, just testing that out. Pretty interesting. Welcome. Okay, we are now at episode number 43, and I'm going to do a little something different here just because I need to read through some of the first chapter of my book, probably just the first 13 or 14 pages. We'll see how far I can get here. But I just wanted to, I figured, well, why not just go live and do it too? I'm going to do it anyways. So why not? Maybe I can go back and rewatch this. I'm also going to be taking some notes. I already have one or two here. It's about the first 14 pages, I think, kind of really things are flowing along, and then something happens. It gets a little out of order, a little chaotic. So I think if I can just go back and be happy with the first 13 or 14 pages, I think that's a good start for this first chapter of my book, Kennedy and Trump. And we'll see. And again, this is the first draft, rough draft, not even the first draft that I'm about to read of the first chapter, which I don't even really have a name yet. Getting to Know You is the working name for it for that chapter title for the very first chapter, and this is how the book will start out. But before I did do that, I did happen to just find came up in one of my YouTube feeds. I did not know that Kennedy's vice presidential candidate has her own YouTube channel. So I just subscribed to that. I see there's a video here. It's about 1 hour. Obviously, I'm not going to play that whole thing, but I'm just going to play maybe the first 2 minutes or so, and then we'll do the read through.
Tech used to be the symbol of everything good, right? We were going to use tech for the benefit of humanity, but I started
The
seeing
New York Times reported this week that the Biden campaign already has raised $1.1 billion. They're going to use it to try to keep other people off the ballot.
and you've called people out, and you have been very, very accurate in your assessment of what went wrong and why. There's no interest right now within the party on actual solutions. How are you doing?
I am great. More to the point, how are you?
It's been 3 weeks and 3 days since the announcement, and it's been wonderful. I am so proud to be part of this ticket, proud to be supporting you, proud of all the people who are working on this, aligned around this vision for a healthy America, that we can finally move past the chaos of the last 10 years. That there's hope for a new model for peace within this country and prosperity, and a new model for peace and prosperity abroad as well. And an end to using the political system in ways that it wasn't intended to be used.
I mentioned to you, because we had lunch before this podcast, that I think about you all the time, about the impact of this on you, because most people who go into politics, even though I did not intend to run for president, I've spent my life thinking about politics and kind of understanding it and working in campaigns. And also understanding, over the past 16 years, how some of these issues turn your best friends against you and, cause all these kind of personal disruptions in your life. And I think about you and think, I had essentially 6 years of preparation for this, even longer, because my first convention was when I was 6 years old at the Democratic National Convention. And I've been thinking about politics my whole life. But what would it be like for somebody who, had 1 week to think about this decision and then was plunged into this incredible, just cascade of turbulence and, hope, for embodying so much hope for so many people as you do, but also becomes the flashpoint for anger and resentment and bitterness, and then the friends who you lose, and the political alliances. And what's that been like for you from a personal standpoint?
Overall, it's been really interesting because I mean, look at the news. Puck News just put out yesterday an article called "The Shanahan Persuasion Campaign," and it outlines all the ways the DNC and people very close to me over the years have been trying to persuade me to step down from running on this ticket with you.
Wow.
And my experience has been 90% very positive.
Only after 3 weeks, there's already people trying to persuade her to step down. Well, they've been trying to get RFK Jr. to not run for years. And Donald Trump, too. Donald Trump, too.
And again, this is one of these other signals. I've been talking about all of these signals about support or silent signals and pockets of support around the country for your campaign. And that's been my experience too, abundantly positive. And then there's about this 10% of folks that are still tied to this narrative of you have to spit hate at the other because that's how politics is done. And that 10% is super loud. They're really,
Because
really
that's what
loud.
they're doing.
And they have a strategy to them that reminds me more of being bullied in high school than it does of the sportsmanship you would expect of our political system.
That's a great word to use, sportsmanship. Because there's another word that traditionally was used, and it was called comedy, which is comity, which is kind of a level of dignity, a kind of a baseline of respect that you give your opponent,
Yeah.
which
That's
seems to be completely gone. And Liz Smith,
All right. So I'm just going to stop it right there. Just wanted to play a little bit of that. But this came out 4 days ago. Nicole Shanahan, I didn't know she even had a YouTube channel, but she does. Looks like that's the first YouTube video and the only one so far. So if you do want to check out her channel, it's at Nicole Shanahan. At Nicole Shanahan on YouTube, and you can check her out there. I also forgot that I could have a little banner running at the bottom of this, so I just pulled something quickly and got that up there. But what I really want to go over, obviously, today is to look at just a little read through, quick read through, see how far that I get to read through some of this stuff here from the book. So again, this is the very first chapter of the book, Kennedy and Trump. Still rough, very rough. I would not say that even these 14 pages, 13, 14 pages that I'm going to read, I wouldn't say that they are done. But I'm pretty happy with it. Something's missing. The pop is missing a little bit, but I think the content is there. So, and that's what I want to focus on. You can always add the little pop later on, but the content needs to be there and it needs to be solid. It needs to make sense. There's a lot of quotes in this book. Going to be a lot of quotes in this book because it's their journey. I don't want it to be me telling you what their journey is. I want it to make quick, easy place to go and look at both of these two gentlemen's journeys to the White House. That's the goal. All right, so let me go ahead and read a little bit of this. This is how we started off. We started off with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I've known Donald Trump for 35 or 45 years, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said during a Twitter Spaces interview in July 2023. I've sued him a couple times. I sued him twice to stop him from building golf courses in the New York City reservoir system. He was a big environmentalist with the Hudson River, President Trump said about his legal interactions with Kennedy. He actually came against me in one or two deals that I was doing, big projects. He was from the environmental standpoint, but he was more reasonable than some. The two very important quotes right there. I really felt like this was important to put this right up there in front of the book. I tried to find a little bit more information. I bought Kennedy's book about I can't remember what the name is. The river. I want to say the River Keepers, but I don't think that's right. But anyways, so I'm still trying to find out more information about these two lawsuits I don't know how much of that I really want to focus on, but it's an interesting story there. And then one of the other things that I was having a hard time finding more information on was Kennedy being part of Trump's vaccine safety committee in 2016. I found a little bit, and of course, it got banned from YouTube. So I have to go back and see if I can find out which parts were banned. I think it was the Joe Rogan stuff. So I think if I take that out, then maybe at least the first parts will be okay for YouTube, not too hot for YouTube for some reason. Okay, so reading on a little bit, and then of course the sources, those are the small little ones we see here. Always got to have those sources as much as possible. And I'm even thinking of moving some of the dates just into the source. So if somebody really wants to see, when did he say this? What's the source? I don't know if I really need to put the source in the actual book. I'm still battling that, still going back and forth. Open to any suggestions, by the way, and any comments, any thoughts on anything that is here. All right, paragraph 3. RFK Jr. always had a congenial relationship with Donald Trump. Even when I was litigating against him, Kennedy commented, he didn't seem to take it personally. During a speech in Alabama, removed by YouTube, Kennedy told a brief story of how he flew on Donald Trump's private plane after defeating the business mogul decades ago. And again, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the removed by YouTube. This was something that I wish I would have recorded live. This is the only speech by Kennedy so far that YouTube has banned, and the Team Kennedy has not put it up anywhere else. I've contacted them. They said if they ever do put it up, they will notify us, but I don't know. And what is important about this speech is this is where Kennedy gives some more quotes about how after he beat Donald Trump in this case, probably back in the 80s, I'm guessing, Trump, he flew on Trump's private plane, which I thought was really cool. And I really wanted that quote. I still do. It's no longer out there. I don't know if anyone who was there at the Alabama event has that or has a recording of that, but I would really love to get that quote, or love to hear more about that story. Obviously, pretty good story, I think. And then I have this note here to add Trump quotes about JFK Jr. saying he could be senator, because trying to show the relationship between Kennedy and Trump here right from the very start. And there are some very interesting quotes that I was able to find in like a 9-minute video that somebody posted, which is awesome. And those quotes are about President, then just a businessman, business mogul, Donald Trump, talking about JFK Jr. So I want to get those in there. And I believe there is one of the quotes is Trump is saying that JFK Jr. could actually be a senator, or he could run for office. He has a bright political future. So I want to grab some of those quotes and throw those right here to just make, to see. I love all the time that we can see that Donald Trump is talking about RFK Jr., RFK Sr. I haven't found really anyone where he's talking about RFK Jr.'s dad. There's a few about the JFK assassination. So I don't know, that may go in later, maybe go on at some other point. Didn't feel right to put it here, but it felt right to put Donald Trump's quotes about RFK Jr., JFK Jr., and Ted Kennedy. I felt like those were some interesting things because I did not know this story about Ted Kennedy. And this was during one of Trump's rallies where he actually talks about his relationship with Senator Ted Kennedy, which is another uncle of RFK Jr. So right after I get the JFK Jr. quote, then it will jump into President Trump talking about Senator Ted Kennedy. All right, continuing to read here. President Trump also had a good relationship with RFK Jr.'s uncle, Senator Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy, believe it or not, was a friend of mine, said Trump. I met him through Palm Beach. They had a big house, a compound. They call it the Kennedy compound. And I had a very nice house also. You see the little competition Trump is throwing in there. This is during one of his rallies. So it's awesome. This is before he starts going after Kennedy, obviously. They call it the Kennedy compound. I had a very nice house also. So he's got, hey, they have a nice house. I got a nice house too. I just thought that was funny. but I got to know him very well, and he liked me. This is Trump talking about Senator Ted Kennedy. We were friends. Trump called Ted Kennedy a smart guy and a great politician. Without going into specifics, Trump said he did a big, big favor for Ted Kennedy. I don't really like when I refer to some of these people by their first name, Ted. It makes sense, and I had to do that just because there's so many Kennedys being mentioned here in these first paragraphs that I had to make sure it's Ted. But it just never, I don't know. It's almost, I've kind of felt like it's kind of disrespectful. And when I hear people call RFK Jr. Bobby and Bobby this, Bobby that, I mean, I guess if they know him and that's their relationship, and maybe Kennedy, RFK Jr. doesn't have a problem with that. I just have a really hard problem with that. I can never call him Bobby, and maybe that's because I don't know him or anything. But I believe that even if I did, I don't really. I don't know. It's not. It's like calling Trump the Don, the Donald. Just doesn't feel right. But I did put that in the book just because I had to separate which Kennedy. So I just put Ted. Big fan. Maybe I'll add Kennedy there. I don't know. Maybe I should add. Trump said he did a big, big favor for Ted. I don't know if I should add Ted Kennedy. Maybe I'll add the last name there. Really big. It wasn't hard for me to do, but it was very big and important for him. And he liked me and I liked him. So I do wonder what this big favor was. I'm sure it had something to do with donating money, contributing to Ted Kennedy's campaign or something like that, helping Ted Kennedy get elected. Or maybe, I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. He doesn't really say that. And maybe there's things where you can't say that, or he doesn't want to reveal that he gave money to the Kennedys, to Ted Kennedy. I don't know, but that's an interesting quote. I do have that full segment there on my YouTube, on this YouTube channel, and it is on the TikTok channel, Kennedy and Trump on TikTok, which I still am not feeling TikTok, but I think it is helping. It looks like it's helping at least get the word out about Kennedy and Trump and getting people thinking, and maybe not getting the word out, keeping the word out should be the correct term. But here's where it gets interesting, where Joe Biden gets brought up. Trump once asked Ted Kennedy, who was the dumbest person in the Senate? Who was the dumbest person in the Senate? Can you guys guess who it was? Probably Joe, Ted Kennedy answered. I said, who's Joe? Trump asked. Maybe I should take out the I said. Yeah, I think I should take out the I said. Especially if I'm going to say Trump asked. Who's Joe? Trump asked. Yeah, that sounds a little better. He said, Joe Biden. Can you believe it? This is 25 years ago. I think it was one of the early times I've ever heard the name. And that's from the Trump rally with Club 47, West Palm Beach, Florida, October 11, 2023. So I do like kind of the flow. I'm a big dates person. I'd love to know the date of these quotes and everything, but I don't want it to slow down the book. And that's going to be the problem that I'm going to deal with during this whole book, because the whole book is quotes from Kennedy and Trump, or people talking about Kennedy and Trump. The dates are very important. The big question is, do the dates need to be included, or can they just be part of these sources? That is something I'm probably never going to be happy with either way. I know a lot of the members of that family, and he's a very smart guy. President Trump. Oh, look at that. There's another one. So we got to get that. Let's fix this while we're here. President Trump said during a July 2023 phone interview, he's hit a little bit of a nerve. I think he really has. A lot of Democrats I know want to vote for him. Democrats like Kennedy. Republicans like Kennedy. Libertarians and independents like Kennedy. Even Trump likes Kennedy. How could anyone not like some of his views? Kennedy's views. There's a lot of Kennedys in every sentence. That's Kennedy. Kennedy's critics are usually the same ones spreading misinformation and disinformation about President Trump. Trump has called Kennedy a far-left ultra-liberal, But in the same interview, Trump also said he liked his presidential opponent. Compare that to what he has said about Joe Biden, Nikki Haley, and other GOP presidential candidates. Maybe not other, because to say other GOP presidential candidates makes it sound like I'm saying Kennedy is a GOP candidate and the GOP presidential candidates. And you will see a big difference. What makes Kennedy so special? That's a loaded question. Early in the campaign season, Trump's answers were very short when asked about RFK Jr. I like him, President Trump said back in September 2023. I've known him a long time. I've really known him. I've always gotten along with him pretty well. This may be one of the reasons why some have labeled Kennedy as Republicans' favorite Democrat. This is where that quote came from the NBC News correspondent Ali Vitali. On August 13, 2023, NBC News correspondent Ali Vitali asked Kennedy how he felt about being labeled as a favorite within the Democratic Party. Here's what Kennedy's answer was. I started out this campaign saying that I wanted to end the toxic polarization that is dividing America. And I think is dangerous as any time since the American Civil War, said Kennedy. A lot of people agree with that. A lot of Americans agree with that. They talk about the future in apocalyptic terms. I feel like somebody needs to stand up and stop talking so much, focusing so much on issues that divide us, and talk instead about the values that bring us together. That is from the NBC News interview, August 14th, 2023. From the video clip, We're Living in a Weird Part of History on NBC News. You can find that if you want to see the whole interview, the whole quote. And I've just been having such a fun time writing this book. It has been such a big challenge, but a fun challenge. And reading it out loud helps me. Reading it out loud really does help me. So thank you for anyone that will watch this. Thank you to anyone that will watch this or find it on Spotify, because we're also on Spotify now too. Look for Greg Fernandez Jr., What is Truth? You'll see Kennedy and Trump podcast. I'll be putting all of this up there as well with the video version, because Spotify is awesome. Less censorship. Kennedy understands the importance of reaching across the aisle and talking to those who strongly disagree with others' views. He also understands what could happen if we harden our hearts and stop talking to each other. Civil war. And that's what he said. And I was like, why did I put Civil War? But then, obviously, when you go up to the quote where he talks about this, he talks about the polarization that is dividing America is as dangerous as any time since the American Civil War. So we don't want to go back there. We want to go forward. We want to move forward. President Trump was impressed with RFK Jr.'s poll numbers in the summer of 2023. Obviously, Trump has since changed his tune on those poll numbers, right? Now he's saying, oh, Kennedy's poll numbers are low. He needs to get the poll numbers up before I'll debate him. And these were just the poll numbers when it was Joe Biden and Kennedy seeking the nomination for the Democrat Party. So obviously, as an independent, you throw that factor in there for all of you numbers people. And could that be the reason why all of a sudden RFK Jr.'s numbers are down? Because now these aren't Democratic presidential candidate polls. These are now three-way polls, two-way polls. But when you put Kennedy up again, he did a great video on this. When you put him up against Trump separately or put him up against Joe Biden separately, Kennedy does very well. And in some cases seems to win. Now, again, the polling, I'm just not a big polling fan. You know, I mean, how many people are there in this country? We're talking about hundreds of millions, right? Or at least millions. And how many people are actually involved in these polls? How many people do they poll? 20,000 at the most. You know, it's usually a couple thousand. So I don't know. It's hard for me to really get behind any of these polls. But the thing is, these candidates are looking at the polls. They are taking the polls very seriously. And of course, all three of them focus on the polls that are in their favor, which is what they should do. and then let the people decide what they like, which polls they like, which polls that they don't like. Okay, moving on. So President Trump was impressed with RFK Jr.'s poll numbers in the summer of 2023. Kennedy was polling at around 22% against Joe Biden. That's a lot for somebody that came in with absolutely no chance of winning, Trump said during an interview with Eric Bolling on Newsmax. Trump respected RFK Jr. Should I say Trump respects RFK Jr.? Oh, Trump respected RFK because that's what he said in the interview. Okay. Trump respected RFK Jr., adding, "A lot of people respect him. He's got some very important points to be made. He's a respected person." So again, in the beginning, it's all very, very nice. It's Trump talking very, very nicely about RFK Jr. Very positive comments, very positive thoughts, positive words for RFK Jr. We are going to see that change, obviously, most recently. And so it did change kind of the tone of the book, because I thought it was going to stay in this vein, and it didn't. It didn't. It has turned a corner. And so the chapter will turn a corner with it. The chapter will be ever flowing. But I felt like I got to really get happy with these first 13, 14 pages in order for me to then kind of switch my focus to what happens next, right? These are things that are set in stone, that are already there. All I need to do is make sure that they flow, no spelling errors, et cetera, et cetera. But as long as they flow correctly, then I can move on in this chapter. And I don't know how big this chapter will be. This chapter may end up being the whole book, and then just with appendices of just the other chapters that I had. I have no idea. But again, this is really good, and I just want to get this part done, because I've gone over these first 15, 20 pages so many times, and now that I've added more, I was like, okay, I got to go back, and I've got to really make sure I'm really happy with these first 13, 14 pages, so that I can say, okay, those are done for now. That's the first draft for those. I won't look at them again until I have a strong first draft of everything and go back and reread everything again, which is the whole process. But time is of the essence here. Not really. Okay. In the summer of 2023, the left-leaning media consistently saw Kennedy's polls numbers. Oh, can't have polls numbers. It has to be poll numbers around 10 to 15%. The few right-leaning media platforms that talk about Kennedy's poll numbers place him at around 18%, sometimes 20%. I like President Trump's calculations better. Here's what Trump says. "He's doing really well at the polls," said Trump. "He's at 22%. That's pretty good. I think Kennedy's popularity is growing among Democrats, Republicans, and independents." So looks like they want me to put a comma right there. So I'll accommodate them with a comma. "And independents. People simply like RFK Jr., especially after they watch his interviews and speeches. Of course, the same can be said about President Donald J. Trump. In the summer of 2020, maybe that needs to be, because I have two things in the summer of 2023, so maybe this should be also in the summer of also in the summer of 2023. Radio talk show host Hugh Hewitt asked Trump if he had talked to Kennedy recently. "I haven't," Trump responded. "I would, but I haven't." And he kind of said almost like a disappointing, like, I haven't. And you have to hear the clip. It makes much more sense in the video version. But you can tell Trump's like, "No, I haven't. I haven't talked to him." But he said he would. He said he would. So we got to hold him to that. Hold him to that promise to make sure that Kennedy gets to debate Trump, because Trump said he would talk to him. All right. You have it on record. I would, but I haven't. When President Trump was asked if he had any advice for Kennedy on how to deal with attacks from the DNC and the blue media, the this is weird. This is totally wrong. Blue Media, comma, Trump advised Kennedy to just hang in there. Up until April of 2024, Trump has had nothing but nice things. Trump had nothing but nice things to say about his new political rival. Then something changed. The first two quotes where Trump criticized Kennedy were mild. In a Truth Social post, and I guess I should capitalize Truth Social. In a Truth Social post, Trump said, "So much for Kennedy being a conservative." And during a separate interview, comment right there, I believe. And during a separate interview aboard Air Force Trump with Brian Kilmeade, the former president labeled Kennedy as an ultra-liberal or ultra-progressive. While chatting with Hugh Hewitt, Trump recognized Kennedy as a common sense guy and has never called him a conservative. So why would he say so much for Kennedy being a conservative? Maybe I should put that. But he does say this. Trump does say this. "He's a common sense guy," said Trump. "And so am I. Whether you're a conservative or liberal, common sense or common sense is common. Whether you're a conservative or liberal, common sense is common sense. And a lot of what I run on is common sense." Kennedy appreciated Trump's kind words, and he is a shining example of how we can all agree to disagree and still be respectful towards each other. "I'm proud that President Trump likes me," said Kennedy, "even though I don't agree with him on most of his issues, because I don't want to alienate people. I want to bring people together. I'm proud that all these people like me and that I have independent supporters and Democratic supporters." Now remember, this is June 26th of 2023. So this is well before Kennedy leaves the Democratic Party and runs as an independent. Now, this goes back to the argument of who left who. Did the Democrat Party turn against Kennedy, or did Kennedy turn against them, right? Maybe either aren't right. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, because we're not talking about the whole Democrat Party. It's a big party, right? We're talking about the leadership. We're talking about the DNC. Really, the DNC had already crowned Joe Biden as their candidate so early on that it was, for them, it just was probably Kennedy is in the way. They wanted to get Kennedy out of the way. At some point, Kennedy realized they're not going to support me. And if I'm really going to do this, like he has said before, my plan is to win and I don't have a plan B. His plan A is to win. He never said his plan is to win as a Democrat. His plan is to win. Everything that I have seen Kennedy do since he announced from the very first time that he's going to run for president up until today, May 5th, 2024, everything that Kennedy has done has been to show that his plan is to win. To win. The way he has attacked the ballot access process is amazing. I've never seen anything like this. You have these third-party candidates that we've always had, right? And they've never been forced to do anything that Kennedy has been forced to do just to get on the ballot, first of all. We've never seen the grassroots response to get Kennedy's name on the ballot. And then we've never seen where these parties, these third-party, smaller parties, because remember, there are over 200 parties, political parties, every 4 years, right? Every 2 years, whatever you want to say. But so there are all of these other parties in these various states that could nominate Kennedy to get him on the ballot in all these states. That's what happened in California. And that's a big, big deal, because they only needed 75,000 people to get Kennedy's name on the ballot in the state of California. Then here comes the American Independence Party that sees what they are doing at the grassroots level and nominates Kennedy based on that, and automatically gets Kennedy's name on the ballot. in 2024. I mean, it is so amazing. These are very historical times for anyone who just wants to understand how the political process works, how the electoral college process works, how you get on the ballot, right? Instead of don't do the write-in thing, but how do you really get your name on the ballot as a serious candidate so your name is on that ballot? What is the process? If you follow Kennedy24.com, if you follow what the Team Kennedy is doing, you will get a very good understanding of how this works. It's an educational process that I am enjoying watching. It's fascinating, so fascinating to me. Okay, let's just go a few more minutes. I'm already at about 30 minutes in this here. Debates. While President Trump has had some harsh words for other presidential candidates during the election season, he seems to have a soft spot for Kennedy. Trump commented on the kind words Kennedy said about anyone preparing for a future debate. Kennedy said that Biden better practice up with the debates. He was very complimentary about my debating skills. And that's what President Trump said. President Trump was referring to an interview RFK Jr. did on Fox and Friends, where Kennedy explained why Biden needs to debate other candidates within the Democrat Party. Ultimately, the president is going to have to debate a Republican, said Kennedy, and the Republican likely is going to be Trump. Trump is probably the most successful debater in the country since Lincoln Douglas in the way that he dispatched 16 Republican opponents one after the other in 2016 was really quite extraordinary. He has had his own technique that people like. President Trump called Kennedy a very smart guy and a good guy. Trump liked that Kennedy called him a great debater. I was very honored by the fact that he said that. I'm glad he feels that way. Trump also believes Kennedy's heart is in the right place. Kennedy compared the eventual presidential debates to a prize fight, saying debating fellow Democrat candidates in the primary would be a good practice for the big showdown in November. Asking the president not to debate during a primary is like asking a prize fighter to practice for his big bout by sitting on a couch and eating Chick-fil-A. President Trump was flattered by the comments of a potential presidential election opponent. I don't really like that sentence, especially one who wasn't attacking him. That was rare during the campaign season. I should say that was rare during the early days. Early days of the campaign season. That makes more sense. I don't know if he's right or wrong, Trump admitted, but he gave me a lot of good compliments. We'll see what happens with him. He's got a hard time going with the Democrats because they're making it so that if he gets the votes, they're not even going to count them. I've never seen anything like that one. It's similar to Bernie Sanders in 2016, I would imagine, but we've never seen anything quite like what they are doing to RFK Jr. When Trump was asked about a possible debate between Biden and Kennedy, he predicted correctly it would not happen during the Democratic Party primary. I just don't think that they'll allow Biden to debate anybody. You could put up a child. I don't think they'll allow him to debate. They're not going to allow it to happen. Now, the DNC doesn't want Biden to debate. They are scared, in my opinion. What are they scared of? They're scared of the same thing that happened in 2020. Evil forces rigged the election results in order to get Biden into the White House in January 2021. President Trump had the most votes ever for a sitting president of the United States. Yet we're supposed to believe a 40-year, unpopular career politician who couldn't draw a crowd during his campaign beat the most popular president ever. The 2020 election results were illegitimate, in my opinion, and unconstitutional. COVID-19 protocols played a big part in the deception and corruption which took place on election night. We can't let that happen again. Trump understands why Biden doesn't want to debate anyone within his own party. I truly understand why he doesn't want to do it. I don't think he's capable of doing it. Trump puts himself in Biden's shoes for a moment and asks, why would he do it? Will he do it? if he's got a 30 or 40 point lead, which is what he's got. In the case of RFK Jr., I've seen polls where he's at 20%. That's not bad. Even so, said President Trump, I don't think RFK expects that he's going to be debating. He's a very smart guy, by the way. I don't think he expects to be debating Biden. Perhaps not in a Democratic primary debate, but now that Kennedy is running as an independent, there's a good chance we see RFK Jr. debate both Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump. President Trump's prediction was right. Eventually, RFK Jr. would part ways with the Democrat Party and run successfully as an independent. But back in 2023, there were many examples of Kennedy and Trump speaking positively about each other. Even when there were disagreements, it was done in a truthful and respectful way. The way Kennedy and Trump talk about each other should be a standard, not only in politics, but in the way we talk about each other in our daily lives. This is something I have learned from both candidates. All right, I'm actually going to stop right there. So we've just gone over the first 4 pages, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to stop right there, and maybe I'll come back this evening or in the next day or so and continue on. But I do want to thank you all for taking a few minutes here, 40 minutes to join me. God bless you all. Remember, Jesus Christ loves you, and we are living in historical times. Have no fear. Jesus Christ is here. All right, that is all for now.